प्रिया प्रिया प्रिया, we can't hear you. I can't hear you. Hello. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, I couldn't hear anything earlier.
Okay. Anything
Now
earlier?
only I can.
Okay. Uh, okay. So sorry for all the technical delays and sort of issues with voice and visibility. Friends, uh, very sorry to joining this session very late uh, because of all those technical difficulties and so on. Please bear with us, and we will start without taking any time. As a, today we are going to discuss more on component plan or looking uh, at this budget from specific lenses. And Bina is going to join us today, who is working as uh, General Secretary for Dalit Arthik Adhikar Andolan. She is working with NCDHR for almost a decade now. She is also Executive Director with Asian Dalit Rights Forum, who is particularly looking into the economic justice issues of scheduled caste and marginalized. And Bina's more responsibility lies on analyzing this budget and taking up it with the state government and government at union level. So she will be particularly looking into the component plans and gender budget. Friends, uh, you might be aware that component plans was initiated in the year 1980, and this component plans objective was to sort of achieve economic development for the marginalized, particularly scheduled caste and scheduled tribe, and to bridge the gap of scheduled caste and scheduled tribe and others in general. That was the particular target. And while the scheme was formulated, the plan was formulated, it said that the schemes are designed in such a fashion that within 5 years we will remove scheduled castes and scheduled tribes from poverty line. We will take them uh, above poverty line. That was the target, and with that target, this component plan was started. And one of the major objective, sort of guidelines for this component plan was the earmarking of funds should be according to the proportion of population. Uh, the the schemes the schemes designed should be sort of should be beneficial for the community at large, for the individuals at large, and uh, minor hedge of 796 and for scheduled caste and 789. Uh, so 789 for scheduled caste and 789 for scheduled tribe should be used. So that uh, the funds which are allocated for scheduled caste and scheduled tribe should be utilized properly. But before going into the details, guidelines, and objectives of scheduled caste and scheduled tribe, I would like to make some points here that it's not only in 1980 uh, the economic justice program was initiated uh, after some relevance to the government and so on. Uh, if you look into the Ambedkarite movement, uh, the Ambedkarite movement in the under the leadership of Baba Sahib was talking about economic justice from the very beginning, right from the roundtable conferences to the various conferences which were held by Scheduled Caste Federation, whether it may be the conference at Nagpur in 1942 or the conferences which took place in Madras under the presidency of N. Shivraj in 1944. And if you go through the resolutions of these conferences, particularly if you go into the resolution of 1944, three important points which you can see there, that uh, budgetary provisions should be made for the oppressed, for the education, not only in primary but higher secondary and university level educations. It does talk about the allocation at hamlets level, so that their basic amenities and the issues of separate settlement can be taken into considerations. It does also talk about that the earmarking of funds should be taken into consideration the requisites of those settlements. So from the very beginning, Ambedkarite movement is talking about this economic justice, uh, particularly with respect to scheduled caste, or the terms majorly used was oppressed caste then. And when after the independence, when the uh, issue of drafting of Indian Constitution started, Dr. Ambedkar exclusively wrote on scheduled caste, which was later on published as a States and Minorities, where he talked about economic developments of taking into considerations various aspects of like agriculture, land, and also talking about key industries to be in the to be run by the states, key and basic industries to be run by the state, which nowadays, if you see in the budget, in the name of disinvestment or strategic disinvestment, those key industries are being privatized or given at a throwaway price, not at the price the government of India has invested so far in those center public enterprises. So we will look into this, and if you see into the section as well, the preamble does talk about justice, to secure justice of all citizens, not only uh, social and political, but economic justice as well. And particularly, if you see the directive principles, where there are responsibilities of the states to earmark sort of endeavor for the education of scheduled caste and scheduled tribe, and also sort of upliftment of scheduled caste and scheduled tribe and other weaker sections. From these articles, the ministries have evolved. The ministries like social empowerment ministry, and later on which was further divided into sort of social empowerment ministry and tribal ministry. So we will try to understand what these major component of scheduled caste and scheduled tribe plans are, what were the objectives, how it is today, those guidelines are being followed, and if we have to analyze those budget, uh, how we can contribute to it, because from yesterday's sessions there were few questions related to this. So some of the questions we will take them today, and there was one particular questions with respect to sort of developmental economy, uh, which was particularly trying to compare it with countries like New Zealand, which we will take it tomorrow, where Paul Divakar will join us, who is particularly working on the issues of budgets and also at advocacy level at a national and international level. So if you uh, see the slides, uh, it it mentions that it was in 1979 the component plan was started to channelize the budget outflows, so that the general sector plans and programs can be very much benefited to scheduled caste and scheduled tribe, and the allocation should be earmarked according to the proportion of the population. If you see the census, the population of scheduled caste is 16.8% and scheduled tribe is 8.6%. But from 1980 onwards till today's budget, if you see, never ever the the guidelines has been followed, right? As such, the Planning Commission started in 1950, whose major responsibility was to have a planned development for any country, and it was essential, it played the role. But for first 30 years, there was no exclusive allocation for scheduled caste and scheduled tribe. It was only started in 1980. And when it was started in 1980, till date, there are many issues. One of the major issue is like allocation, allocations not directly benefiting to the communities, notional allocations, non-utilization of allocated funds, diversion of scheduled caste and scheduled tribe funds, diversion to distribute sweets in the time of Diwali, diversion to Commonwealth Games, even diversion to sort of building jails for scheduled caste and scheduled tribes. So there are lapse of funds, absence of implementations of exclusive mechanism. So these are the issues. So as said, those guidelines were never been followed. Uh, Apart from Planning Commission, there was a National Development Council, and in this National Development Council meeting, uh, the meeting of National Development Council is being headed by the Prime Minister. And on June 2002, the Prime Minister said, tribal subplans and special component plans should be an integral part of annual plans as well as 5-year plans, making provisions therein non-divertible and non-lapsable, with a clear objective of bringing the gap in socio-economic development of scheduled castes and scheduled tribes within a period of 10 years. So when it was started in 1980, it was targeted, it was said that schemes are planned in such a way that within 5 years, scheduled castes and tribes will be above poverty line. And in 2005, the same person who was secretary then in Planning Commission, who was Prime Minister in 2005, has said that the programs need to be integrated and planned in such a way that within 10 years, the gap can be bridged. But friends, even if you see the 2011 census data, there are major gaps. And recently, when United Nations published a report on women health, Dalit women die 15 years earlier than that of general women is the status of this country. So after this 2005 meeting, there were another guidelines been sort of uh, placed, which was known as Sharan guidelines. Then again, Jadhav guidelines was being prepared. More or less, where those guidelines were talking about that these funds were should not be divertible, should not be lapsable. The proportion should the earmarking of funds should be in proportion to the population. The dedicated unit should be established in central ministries and department. And then scheduled caste and scheduled tribe ministry should act as a nodal department for population and implementation of these schemes. But but till date, what we'll see that majorly there are still uh, lapses. There are still diversion. The programs which are even a simple program like post matric scholarships, which needs to be have been implemented properly across India, there are still delays in paying scholarship and so on. So without taking much time, already we are delayed. So I request Bina to take it further in order to see the budget from the specific lenses of special component plan and tribal subplan, and particularly from gender lenses, and to go through the analysis of budget 2020. Over to you, Bina. Bina, over to you.
Hello, can you hear me, Priya? Priya?
Yes, Bina, you can start.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Bina, you can start.
Okay, I'm not able to hear anybody, so I don't know if I'm audible. Sorry, I don't know what is happening.
Bina, your voice is audible. You can start.
Can you say something?
You
Okay.
can start. Okay.
Yeah. Now I can hear you. Okay. Sorry, I think too many technical issues today. My computer's just frozen while I was trying to open the presentation. I'll try to send it to you, Priya, so that you can share the screen. But thanks, Priya. I think you've given a very good overview of what the situation is regarding the SAP TSP, and I think it's important for us to understand the background from where these subplans have come. I think there were some questions regarding the subplans and why they were even needed. No, in the 70s, when during Indira Gandhi's time, when they did an analysis of the people at that time, the difference in the indicators, development indicators between the scheduled castes, scheduled tribes of Dalits, Adivasis, and the rest of the general population, it was found that there's a huge gap. And the whole point of bringing in these subplans was to bridge that gap. And I think that is where we have, although the subplans have been there, I think 74, 74 they started it, and 74 was SCP, TSP, then 79 was SCP. By the time in 80 and that year's planning commission, planning 5-year planning, they started these subplans. Although Baba Sahab, as you know, in the Pune Pact itself, he had made it very clear that it's really important for us to have economic development. However, through these subplans, the whole point was to bridge that gap between the development of the general caste and development of the Dalits and Adivasis. But in the last, I think it has been now almost 40 plus years that these subplans have been there, that we have seen that this gap is continuing to exist. And some of the reasons I think Priya has already very clearly mentioned. Also would like to acknowledge Priya, his organization and the groups in Maharashtra for taking up these issue of subplans at the state level and really pushing with the state government to come with the legislation on it. And what are these gaps? These gaps are continuing to exist, whether we look at education, whether we look at health, any of the indicators that we take, we see that there is a huge difference in the gap. So we are way behind when it comes to education. We are way behind when it comes to health indicators. I mean, take for example this corona virus itself and its impact. The most impact will be on our people, will be on the Dalits and Adivasis, because the migrant laborers from the bonded laborers are all from Dalit community. They are almost twice been bonded, one by the people that they're working with. When they needed them, they're with them. When they don't want them, they've just kicked them out. So we have a huge rise of unemployment. But where will this unemployment be mostly with our people. They're not allowed to go on the fields. Even during harvest time, they're not allowed to go there. There's social boycott happening in several states by taking the excuse that most of the Dalits are affected by the coronavirus, and that's why they should be boycotted. So this has been happening for some time now. When they started these supplants in the 70s and early 80s, as we already said, three main things. One is for the hamlet development, so the bastis. The second is for individuals. So hamlet development could be water for the bastis or roads, for that specific hamlet that has higher population of Dalits and Adivasis. And the second is family oriented. So, it has to be a scheme that is for the families. Like, for example, housing, in the Indira Awas Yojana, for example, the houses that they give, that is for a family. And individual oriented, which is mostly for specifically related to individuals, like, for example, scholarships, etc. This was the plan that they had initially done, and I think it was very well conceptualized at that time. Slowly, as days went by, there was allocation. The allocation was there, but what was missing was the implementation. So every year, if you see the budget, you will see that there is a set allocation. Of course, the allocation has never been proportionate to the population nationally. It has always been about between 5% to 8% for Dalits, and between 3 to 6% to 7% for Adivasis. So they have never reached that point of where it has to be 16.6% for Dalits and 8.6% for Adivasis. They never reached that level of allocation. However, the allocation that is already there has not been, actually, it's been really not implemented well. Where it has not been implemented well, the problem was that like Priya already said, that it's been, it has been utilized for various things that has no, absolutely no use to our community, absolutely no use for Dalits and Adivasis. So there are different ways that they can actually exclude, or which is known as fiscal exclusion in the technical terms, where people are locked out of and continue to be in abject poverty and deprivation. And that is what we are seeing today, that despite mechanisms that are there, we are seeing that there is a huge problem with how these funds are utilized. Let's take, for example, and I'd like to a little bit focus on Dalit women issues here, where we're seeing that, of course, we all know that there's a triple marginalization based on caste, class, gender, etc. There's very limited access to public resources, water and sanitation. We do know that a lot of violence on Dalit women are because they are going to access these services, whether it be access to water, the toilets, sanitation facilities. They are absolutely nowhere in the decision making of public administration bodies. They're missing in the area when they make policy itself. I think you'll learn a little bit more about that tomorrow. The whole economic backlash, or the backlash and violence, are faced by the women. So the women, either the rape, torture is used to set scores. Many of them are engaged in manual scavenging, Devdasi systems. There's discrimination in payment of wages, even if they're doing the same amount of work, or if not more work. Discrimination and access to justice. And I can go on. I think there is about 50,000 cases of violence today registered under NCRB data, which is about 5,000 rapes only on Dalit women every day. So seeing this, and seeing that now during the COVID also, we can continue to see this water and sanitation. We're continuing to we are following up. Where many women from Manus are now told not to come. Plus, they're not allowed to even go and take the ration, because they're saying, no, you're Dalit women, you're not allowed to make. So several cases. Why am I saying all this? We know the situation. The reason I'm saying all this perpetuation continues. What we are seeing in society is what we are seeing ultimately in the policies and in the budgets. So that means that if we are saying that there is about 8,98,000 odd crores of the total central sector scheme. So the total, let's call it development budget within the budget of the union budget. Out of that, there's a very minimal, that is 0.89%. That's like really a dot. Actually, I wish I could show you the presentation if my computer still seems not to work, but I'll send that later to you. So there's a very minimal amount that is allocated. If you actually look at the graph, there's a dot on it. To say that we are only 7,000 crores from this whole bunch of 8 lakh crores or whatever is allocated, 8,000 crores is allocated for the development of the Dalit women. And if you look at how much of that is actually coming down to the ground, it's another mustard seed, if you look at the large picture. So I think same for Adivasis as well. From the same budget, it's about 3,000 that is finally coming down to it's about 0.34%. So we can see that this exclusion of the budgets is being off budgets totally for Dalits, but that look at Dalit women again continuing to be more and more they are more and more excluded from the larger. And what do these schemes have? We have to understand that when money is in this country, it is to be spent through a scheme or through a yojana, like we say in Hindi. So if there is no scheme, that money will not be spent. It's just there as a number. So we have to see how much of that is actually allocated for what scheme. If you look at health schemes, there are very less percentage for Dalit women. And we know that many of our children are born malnutrition. Many of them have issues with health. So how do we sort of ensure that they have better schemes that will actually really be for the development of Dalit women? I think I'd be unfair if I speak on budgets and on the impact without speaking on the response to the COVID-19. If you look at the overall budget that has been there, we can see several, and I've already said there's a very small percentage actually allocated for health. We all know that many of the migrant laborers are from the Dalit community, and therefore the demand from the government is that they have to have an interim stimulus package to address the COVID-19 situation. What does that mean? At the moment, there is no package for unemployment aid. So many of our women who have been engaged in manual scavenging, or who are cleaners, or many of the men who are pick garbage, or who are cleaners around in our societies, many of the laborers on the farms are not allowed. So they have been out of work for almost 2 months. So one of the things that we're requesting is that the budget that is allocated, even if it means the 7,000 crores that they've allocated for Dalit women, can that be also utilized for this employment aid? Instead of it just lying there, it can be utilized as an employment aid for migrant workers who've been, or all the workers who have been out of work. Special packages for development of livelihood and land and skill enhancement. There is a lot of money that they're putting in skill development, but that skill is just, very minimum skill, like Priya was saying, just for a survival bit. Can we think of having a much more robust and sustainable plan within the budgets to ensure that we have plans for, the development of land, entrepreneurship? A special fund for the protection development of scheduled caste women and scheduled caste women. So we are asking for a special component within the scheduled caste subplans and tribal subplans, almost 50% allocation for the development only for women. Unless we do that, I don't think that any amount of advocacy will actually help us to move forward. The other thing that we have noticed over and again, and I think this demand has been there already, people are discussing about it, that the personal protection equipments, PPEs, to be made available to all frontline workers. It is okay if they use the budget that is allocated out of this year's budget, which is about the total budget. I mean, the total what they have allocated this year is about 83,000 crores for Dalits. It's okay to use some of that money to build in schemes pertaining to COVID, and that is a kind of policy making that we would like to see. That how are we actually catering to the needs of the community at a particular time. One of the other things that we are working very much is on the higher education and scholarships. I think scholarship is one scheme that can really work magic, that can help our youth, that can help our women, that can help young girls and boys to actually access higher education. We all know that that is the one way that even Baba Sahab has told us, with education we can go a long way. There also we have a lot of problems. They are now putting more barriers. Many children are not able to access these schemes. I'm not talking about metropolitan cities like Delhi, Bombay, but I'm talking about smaller, universities and colleges in smaller villages or third tier towns, where you have young youth who are not able to access. There's either a problem with their documentation and they're rejected on a very flimsy reason. They don't have the information or awareness of when these. So I think when we are building in these mechanisms, when we are allocating money for these scholarships, we have to also build in mechanisms that that is accessible to the community. And I think that is very important for us. Before I stop and then we can answer some questions that has come, I'd also like to say that we do have targeted budgeting, which is the scheduled caste subplan and tribal subplan. That is a very, very critical policy that we have in this. It is a guideline today. Our demand has always been that this has to be made legally, it has to be made into a legal provision, so it has to be made into a law. So we're demanding that we legislate. There's a campaign already where Priya and all are part of it, where we want to legislate the subplans, so that if we do legislate, we have a legal backing to say that, hey, you've not done this, or these budgets still remain unutilized. One last thing before I stop here. From the 83,000 crores odd crores that they have allocated for Dalits, only about 16,000 crores are actually going down to the community. So there's a huge gap. Think about it, 83,000 crores and 16,000 crores. There's a huge gap of money that we don't know where it is going. I mean, we kind of know it's going to things that, that have no use to our used to us. Like, for example, maybe making highways, maybe making rubber roads, like Priya was saying, stadiums, guns. They actually bought guns with the money in Chhattisgarh and the other places. So I think our key here is that these subplans are a great way of bridging the development gap. This has been there for so many years. We need to together push ourselves as a community for a better implementation of these schemes, and that is very important and critical. Within that, we need to ensure that at least 50% of the budget is allocated within a specific special component element for Dalit women. With that, I'd stop, Priya, and then we can probably see if we can answer some questions. Sorry about the technical glitches.
Thank you, Bina. It was lovely hearing to you. Though we couldn't see the figures on the screen, but it was great to hear you on the analysis of special component plan and tribal subplan. As Bina has mentioned that for this budget 2020, around 83,000 crore has been allocated to scheduled caste, but only 16,000 crores as such amount is going for benefit of the community, and rest of the fund is being diverted. So take a look of this sort of demand for grants or sort of statement in A. Uh, you will be able to see how the money is being sort of taken away, which are not really important for. I hope on the screen you can see, for example, uh, demand number 13. And this demand number 13 uh, is Department of Telecommunications. Now, if you particularly see in that demand number 13, there are programs or the schemes like optical fiber cable network for defense services. And the allocation for this is something around 214 crores. And further, if you see, there are Center for Development of Telematics. Now, these are the general schemes which are to be benefited for all people if it's to be benefited. But the amount is being given to such schemes which goes beyond the objective and guidelines of those uh, sort of programs for special component plan. And if you go through this statement 10A, which is the umbrella scheme for scheduled caste, and if you go through the statements of 10B for uh, uh, scheduled tribe, you will see many such things where the amount are given to such programs which are not directly beneficial to scheduled caste and scheduled tribe. And Bina was making one of the point which is very important. When it comes to gender, most of the schemes are very small and are on a survival basis. And she was making one important point that if really women has to be benefited from this program within special component and plan or within tribal subplan, 50% or more than amount should be allocated to women. Bina, one of the question which is coming up is, now if you go through the programs for the community, may it be scheduled caste or scheduled tribe, and if you see particularly for the women, the schemes and programs are very archaic, very old. When you are working on this subject, what would you like to see in coming times, looking at the modern development of technology, digital and so on, and the participation of Dalit Adivasi women with respect to the schemes which are there, and what are the schemes which you want to formulate so that there can be improvement and better access for Dalit Adivasi women?
Yeah, I think that, Priya, that's a very valid question. I was just looking at the analysis that we do every year, and some of the suggestions that have come actually from the community themselves on what we can have. Say, for example, if you're looking at MSMEs, there is no allocation under MSME for Dalit women. We can always have some fund set up for ensuring there is some entrepreneurship opportunities for Dalit women. See how the system works here. The system here works that they will put in money for some primary education, some ITI technical skills. That's it. They don't want to put in money where actually we can really, gain the skills, gain the higher education, and then move ahead. So somewhere they're also capping our capability and capacity. So definitely some startup fund for Dalit women to have their own entrepreneurship, schemes and development schemes. There are already many women who are doing it, but a little bit of financial, impetus will really help them. Land, we demand land for Dalit women. There has to be funds for development of land in the name of Dalit women. I think that is very important. The other thing is we also look at health facilities. If we can establish mini health centers in the habitations where many Dalit communities live, we can have establishment of mini health centers, financial medical assistance for SC/ST women. They give some small amount for institutional delivery for women. That also includes Dalit women, and also some ambulance for now, which is a very meager. Other than that, they can also give. And we've calculated that even if we put all these schemes, Priya, that will come within the budget that they have suggested, or maybe a little bit more. So if you remove all these schemes, like you said now for that microfiber or electricals or road building, if you remove those from our budget and actually put in schemes like this for the development of Dalit women, for the development of our youth, it I think it's about 146 crores only for the Prevention of Atrocities Act, for the hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, for the prevention of implementation of the Prevention of Atrocities Act. Now, if you look at the number of crimes, there are 50,000 crimes. Out of that, some 5 or 6,000 rapes every year. A meager amount of that only put. We need to have a special fund for the protection and empowerment of SC/ST women. I think that is so important. Special development funds for women from nomadic, semi-nomadic and Vimukta Jatis of SC/STs. I think that is also very important. Nowhere there's a mention of women from these communities. A financial development corporation for SC women alone within the finance, it can be housed within the finance development corporation, or it can be housed otherwise. So I think we have a list of these schemes, Priya, that we have submitted to the finance ministry. We have given it to all the ministries. And I think as a community, we need to push further for this as well. There are other in higher education, like for example, nursing is one thing that we can think of, specifically having nursing colleges for young women to pursue. We all know that where professions like nursing can really not really lift them, but their families as well. So we can have specific paramedical and nursing colleges for our own people.
Yeah, Bina, you while talking on the gender budget, you also mentioned the COVID and sort of thing. I mean, in these Corona things, Dalits will be highly affected, and majority of the Dalits, what we can see, are also involved into sanitations and all. When lot of money is being allocated to Swachh Bharat Abhiyan and the programs like that within from Dalit Adivasi budget, uh, do you think there from this budget we can immediately talk about or take up the advocacy issues of giving equipments to sanitation workers from special component plan?
Yes, Priya, very much, very much. I think from the plan itself, if you look, there's a very minimum amount that is allocated for health benefits for the community, both Dalit men and women. So I think that should be one of our main demands, that they have to provide PPE to all our health workers, whether it be people who are picking up garbage, whether it be cleaners, whether it be manual scavengers, whether it be all the people who are involved in cleaning and sanitation work have to be given PPEs, and it's okay to reallocate the budgets within the SCP. I think it's really important, because anyways they don't spend most of the budget. So why not spend it on our people, and to ensure that we have a safe working environment during this COVID crisis.
Yeah. Bina, one point which you are involved in, like sort of pre-budget consultation. You attended pre-budget consultation with the ministry. What was your experience? Because yesterday when we were talking about budget timeline, we also said there are consultations being held from the month of October to December, and civil society organizations do have chance to put up their views before finance ministry with respect to social sector and so on. So what was your experience while advocating the issue of economic justice of scheduled caste and scheduled tribe with ministry?
Yeah, I think first of all, I'd like to definitely place on record that it is a good opportunity. I think it's good that they're opening up the space, that we are able to get that space. I think there are only 15 organizations in the whole country, 15 or 20 organizations, and NCDHR is one of that. So as a Dalit organization, it's a really nice thing to get that opportunity. How much of what we say and what we present is actually taken into the budget may be an altogether different thing. You know, this may just be a nominal representation where they are getting us to come and they can tick a box saying, okay, the consultation with social groups are done. But how much of what we are saying and what we present is actually included in the budget is a big question mark. And maybe 5 years down the line, we have to maybe analyze and see if any of our recommendations have ever been taken into the budget making process.
Thank you, Bina. Thank you. If right now there are no questions on the FB, what we can see, but thank you for taking us through the budget from a specific lenses and particularly from gender budget. So it was nice talking to you. Friends, dear viewers, आज बजट की पाठशाला में आज इतना ही. कल हम जरूर बात करेंगे इसके अलग एस्पेक्ट्स को लेके, जहां अलग अलग राज्यों में इसकी क्या स्थिति है. और कल हमारे साथ जुड़ेंगे पॉल दिवाकर जी, जो एशियन दलित फोरम के डायरेक्टर है और सॉर्ट ऑफ कन्वेनर है, और बजट राइट्स को he is one of the key person who is sort of advocating with central government and also various other states. So we will go through that point, particularly from advocacy point of view, tomorrow with Paul Divakar, because he was also one of the important figure where in some of the states the legislation is being made on special component plan and tribal plan, sub-plan. So thank you. आज बस इतना ही. Thanks.
Thanks, Priya. Bye bye.